A tropical depression has hit Haiti, complicating rescue efforts just days after a powerful earthquake battered the impoverished nation. The depression has been downgraded to a storm, but heavy rains and strong winds continue to lash areas still dealing with the aftermath of the disaster. At least 1,400 people died in Saturday's quake, and that death toll is expected to rise as search teams reach remote areas. Natasha Hussain reports.
Hundreds of people clashed with police outside a makeshift shelter. Their homes were destroyed when a magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck Haiti over the weekend.
We've nowhere to go. The only thing I have is a sheet. I use it to sleep on the ground. At night it gets very cold.
But those who do manage to get a spot inside the shelter find little reprieve. Flimsy tents offer little protection as a tropical depression drenches quake-hit areas. But people here have nowhere else to spend the night. The storm is only one of many factors complicating Haiti's recovery. The country is still rebuilding from the devastating quake in 2010 that killed 250,000 people, as well as Hurricane Matthew in 2016. Haiti is one of the world's poorest nations. 25% of its population lives in extreme poverty. 60% of Haitians make less than $2 a day. Many live in rural areas and rely on subsistence farming to feed their families. The country is also heavily dependent on external revenue. Foreign aid accounts for 20% of the government's annual budget. Haiti was already in economic crisis when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, pushing hospitals to the brink. The economy shrank 3.7% last year, while its currency depreciated 30%. Then in July this year, months of political turmoil came to a head with the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. His murder came amid escalating violence, which has seen gangs take control of parts of the country. The criminal groups have disrupted efforts to deliver aid to those in need. But the government says it's beefing up security.
International and local aid will be distributed to the most affected people. This will be done through the Civil Protection Agency.
The U.S., Mexico, and Colombia are among countries that have sent tons of emergency relief. The UN has called on armed groups to agree to the establishment of a humanitarian corridor to ensure that aid reaches those desperately in need. Natasha Hussain, TRT World.
I'm now joined by Victoria Ward in Panama. She's Save the Children's Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean. Welcome to the program, Victoria. It really does seem that Haiti can't catch a break right now. Can we start with a tropical storm, Grace? What sort of threat does that pose to Haiti right now?
Well, as the footage that we just saw indicates, a lot of people are outside of their homes or have lost their homes. We estimate that there are at least 30,000 people who have lost their homes and many, many people living in the street trying to deal with the rain that is still happening. It's also halting the aid effort as rivers are overflowing and making it more difficult to gain access to the many small communities in the affected areas.
As we heard there, this latest storm comes just days after Saturday's 7.2 magnitude earthquake, which devastated Haiti. It's claimed more than 1,400 lives so far. Can you tell us how that relief effort is going?
The government has begun to coordinate with the international humanitarian sector to try to get relief and ensure that there's access to the area. As has been mentioned, there were roads that were damaged, and there is a certain particular part of the road that had been controlled by the gangs who the government has managed to negotiate a ceasefire. We are currently working together with many agencies to try to ensure that there's a coordinated effort and that we learn the lessons from 2010 and make sure that we get the aid in as quickly as possible, but also ensure that it's used as wisely as possible. We are seeing lots of need for shelter, for health care, for water and sanitation services, and just for the basics of staying alive. There are also starting to be reports of food shortages in that area.
And this on top of the pandemic that's still ravaging the world, including Haiti. Can you just update us on that situation? How has Haiti been hit by the coronavirus?
So Haiti was not hit as badly in 2020 as some other parts of the world, but they are currently at the peak of their crisis of the outbreak so far for them. The hospitals were already stretched very thin with COVID patients before the earthquake. Currently, the hospital in Lake, where we work and where one of the major one of the places, the major city that has been damaged, the hospital is considered unsafe, so they have people in tents outside the hospital being treated there. So there are shortages of everything, and medical supplies are one of the key interventions that we're trying to work with the government to ensure they get.
Okay, Victoria Ward, we will have to leave it there, but best of luck with your work in Haiti, and thank you again for joining us on Money Talks.